Hey everyone, Dimension Tripper Neptune Top NEP was released recently on Steam, so I'm going to show you a few things about it. It's a short and affordable 16-bit style shooter modeled after Space Harrier. It's fun to see how various locations, characters, and enemies translate into 16-bit, so I enjoyed it, despite the game being quite short. The character you control is Big Nep, though the other CPUs and CPU candidates can aid her during battle. Gameplay is easy to grasp. Directional keys on the keyboard do what you expect, and you move around the screen. There's also a shoot and slash button. Shoot you can basically hold down all the time. Slash is a stronger attack that kills enemies in close proximity, and it also nullifies attacks that are about to hit you. Slashing does interrupt your shooting, so you can't just keep mashing the slash button all the time if you're trying to deal damage to a boss, let's say. You want to try to have as much continuous fire as possible there. The game flow works kind of like this. Every stage starts off with you flying through torii gates for some reason. Enemies range from simple ones that you just don't want to run into, all the way to ones that feature more complex movement and attack patterns. Throughout you'll see coins, which you probably want to collect as they fill up the wingmate meter on the bottom right. Once the meter is full, a CPU or CPU candidate will help you out for a limited time. After a while, a boss will appear who has more powerful and complex attack patterns than the regular enemies again, as you can guess. They also have health bars, which you can see at the top there. Each boss drops health upon defeat. Now I want to mention a few things about each of the stages and some of the gameplay mechanics. First, let's talk about the wingmates. They are very handy as they shoot like Big Nep, but as far as I can tell they don't take any damage. There's 9 or 10 wingmates depending if you count ROM and RAM as 1 or 2. The order the characters appear seems to be random. The characters that you can get are ROM and RAM, Noir, Nepgear, Pishi, Blonde, Neptune, Plutia, Uni, and Vert. By the way, that happens to be the order that the characters appeared in my first playthrough, in case you're wondering. The icon tells you which character is next. If you are wondering, while the order of appearance is random, the characters don't repeat until you unlock all of them. So, you won't get, Nepgear, then Uni, and then Nepgear again. So I'm glad that they did do that. You can also have more than one wingmate at a time, not counting ROM and RAM. Those are the only ones together by default. If you don't collect enough coins, it's possible to not make use of every wingmate in a playthrough, but I managed to get all of them in my first try, so since I'm not really that great at these games, I don't think it's too hard of a task there. In case you are wondering, a playthrough takes about 15 minutes roughly. Some of you may be wondering if you can play as the other characters, but unfortunately, no, that's not the case. You can only play as Big Nep. I also noticed that there's more animations with Big Nep, like, you'll see her at different angles depending on where she is on the screen, whereas the other characters, they just, they hover back and forth and that's basically it. There are 5 stages, and I'm glad to say that they all look quite distinctive and have plenty of references to the main games. The first stage takes place in a field or some sort of foresty bit with Planetune in the background. There's a bit of an aesthetic going on with the architecture and these 16-bit graphics that I like. Most enemies are the usual low-level enemies you may find in Virtua Dungeon. At the end, you reach an eggplant farm with the boss being a giant eggplant. The second stage is cool because it looks quite different. It takes place in a cave. Again, that's reminiscent of the cave dungeons that we see in the main NEP games that have those crystals. The enemies are also more complex in terms of movements and attacks, with the ancient dragon being the boss. The third level I'm pretty sure is supposed to be Louis. I wasn't sure right at the beginning, but, that castle there in the background looked a bit suspicious. But then I saw the Super Mario style pipes, mushrooms, and blocks, and yeah, obviously this is supposed to be the Louis level. I think this level has the most amount of missable coins. Some are hidden in golden blocks, which can be quite frequent, so you have to go back and forth on the screen. And other times there's these long lines, which are not too hard, but like I said, you can miss that sort of stuff. CFW Trick is the boss, and yes, his tongue is something you have to watch out for. There's a little cameo here of Linda/Underling, which I thought was cool too. Stage 4 seems to take place in the game industry graveyard, going by the bleak environment and the piles of broken TVs and electronics. The enemies are also all those robot ones you often see. The boss this time is Werachu. When I was playing, I didn't notice, but when I rewatched the footage, I noticed that at one point you get attacked, he attacks you with composite cables, which I thought was pretty funny. I told you they were evil. Level number 5, which is the last one, takes place in Planetune, at night. R4 is the boss here, and she makes her presence known right at the start. She pops up every now and then until you actually have to fight her for real. Once you defeat her, Big Nep and all the goddesses and their little sisters fly off into the horizon, and hopefully manage to avoid all the fireworks. I think Dimension Tripper Neptune is quite an easy game overall. I managed to finish the game on normal and died just right at the end, but then you can use points to, for like a continue. Hard difficulty isn't actually harder in terms of how the game plays, it's just that you don't get any continues. I'm sure if I practiced a bit more and tried a bit harder, I'd be able to go through the game without dying. So I'm sure it'll be a breeze for people who are, into this genre. Just so you know, to get all the achievements, you do need to do a playthrough without damage, so that does sound a bit too hard for me though. It's pretty cool also that you can listen to all the music that's in the game. They are 16-bit-ish versions of well-known Neptunia songs. I think they sound great, and they managed to capture a bit of that Genesis/Mega Drive sound. Though you'll hear some clearly non-16-bit sounds, like there's some guitars and also percussion elements that you'll notice. So yeah, that's the game. Dimension Tripper Neptune Top NEP is pretty fun. It's a cheap game, so don't expect too much. It is a good looking game, but man, it does remind me how nice it is for games like this to run on a CRT screen. It's a bit tiring on the eyes with all the hard edges. That could really use that rounding effect that tube screens have. So far it's a Steam-only game, but Neptunia Shooter ended up being a DLC for NEP Reverse, so who knows? Top NEP may come to a console in the future. I hope you liked the video. I did my best to find little interesting bits here and there to talk about, since I think that's, supposed to be kind of the main point of the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.